Comments are a part of almost every programming language. Comments allow a programmer to type text into a script that will be ignored by the computer whenever that script is executed. The conventional use of comments is for a programmer to describe in everyday language the purpose and function of what a command is or what a set of commands are doing within a script. It's always best practice to include comments in your code. This way, you or someone else can look back at that code in the future and quickly understand what's going on. In MATLAB, the symbol used to create a comment is the %sign. Anything to the right of a %sign on a line will show up in green and is ignored by the computer when a script is executed. Let's go back and look at adding some comments to some code we have already written. Here, I've loaded up the M-file simple script that we created previously. I'm going to show you several examples about comments and just start with the basics of how to create a comment. Here, we're going to use a designated symbol of the %sign. When you type it in, it's going to show up as the color green. This is to help remind you that when you type in this symbol, it's going to be ignored whenever you run your script. Also, any text to the right of this symbol will also be green and ignored. So I can say this is a comment. When I run my script, it executes just as it did before. However, if I were to remove this %sign, the computer is now going to try and interpret line 3. Here we have a problem because the comment that I typed in does not follow the syntax of my programming language. So this is the first helpful thing about using comments. You can now include text just in everyday language within your script to describe what's going on and not have to worry about it following the syntax of your programming language. Let me show you a couple examples of this. One good practice to get into is at the top of a script or a section of your script, include at a high level, what's the purpose, what's going on. As an example, what I'm going to do here at the top is use comments to type in the name of my script and then also what is the purpose of it. This script demonstrates basic execution of multiple commands within a script. Additionally, the order of execution is shown. So now at a later point in time, whenever I open up this script, I can quickly see what is it going to do and why did I create it in the first place. Also, I've included a title. That way, if anything ever gets changed around in the future, I have as a reference what was the original title that I gave this. Another good practice to get into as a programmer is to add comments about individual lines of code. Now, you don't have to do it for every single line of code in your script, but it's a good idea, especially for things that might be confusing in the future, to describe what's going on. A couple examples of this. I'm going to include a comment for now that says above CLC that this command is going to clear off the command window. Just in case I ever forget in the future what this is going to do, I have this as reference. I can still run my script, see that everything works accordingly. Now, some programmers like to include the comment above the command that it's referring to. Other programmers will put the comment to the right of the command. Either is fine. You just have to figure out and think about what it makes your code more readable. You don't want to include too many comments to make things cluttered. Purpose of them is just to make understanding your code better. So I'll include a couple more of these things here too. Over to the right, type in a comment, add two numbers together, store the result in A. Finally, I'm going to add one last comment down here at the bottom with C that says multiply A and B, then print C to the command window. Can execute this code. See that everything is working very well. So that was the first reason of why you might use comments, so you can put in there text to describe what's going on. Another helpful thing that programmers can get very good at is using comments to speed up their workflow whenever they're trying to troubleshoot and fix problems within their code. As an example, let's say we've got several lines of code here that we want to execute, but there's something we need to figure out. One thing you can do is add a comment before a line of code and stop it from being executed whenever your script is run. So now if I execute this, we no longer are printing this to the command window. Can remove this, and now it goes back to how it functioned previously. So this is a helpful thing to get used to as you're writing your code. There may or may not be times when you want to remove commands that were previously executed just by adding a comment. You still save the code that you've written for later use, you're just ignoring it at this point in time. So there's a couple things about adding comments to your code. One is just to add in everyday language to your code to describe what's going on. And the second reason is to use comments, or at least a % symbol, to help you troubleshoot or change your code around in specific situations.